Super Amazing Wagon Adventure is a really interesting little release. In my previous review on War the Game, I noted that it could be considered a deconstruction of the grand strategy genre. Super Amazing Wagon Adventure skews this concept in a whole other way. What if Oregon Trail was an action game, but still recognisably Oregon Trail? For those who are not old enough to remember, Oregon Trail is a game from the very dawn of PC gaming. In many ways, modern survival games owe it quite a lot. It was brutally difficult, often horrifically unfair, and a sheer joy to play. Conceptually, the game was about a group of American settlers crossing the country and the challenges that they faced. Mechanically, it was about trying to balance different resources and needs with limited opportunities to actually do so, making judgment calls and tough decisions. Not just moral decisions, but also mechanical ones. These days there's a game called Oregon Trail, which I really enjoy and will probably find its way onto this channel at some point. It's essentially the same game in concept, but ported to a modern systems and set against the backdrop of course, a zombie apocalypse, instead of the colonisation of North America. Oregon Trail has also been ported to just about everything capable of playing video games, and to be completely honest, even now, 40 years after the release of the first game, it still remains a really solid title and well worth your time. So how do you take that and turn it into a fast-paced, side-scrolling action game, but keep it mechanically similar to what is typically a more sedate, thought-based game bordering on role-playing? The first thing to note is that Super Amazing Wagon Adventure is fast. I mean absurdly fast-paced, as well as using Twitch gameplay. You are given some text to provide context to a gameplay sequence that lasts about 10 to 30 seconds, and then boom! New set of text, new context, new scenario. Variety and fast pacing are very much kings here. Super Amazing Wagon Adventure is also mostly procedurally generated, meaning each playthrough goes differently as the various random events that can befall you are shuffled around. There are some fixed events that act as milestones you can use to gauge your progress across the country, but most events vary quite a bit. This drive-by gameplay is very interesting. Typically in game design you establish as much as the player needs to know to play the game, then slowly introduce new concepts and challenges to keep increasing the difficulty curve, as well as the options that are available to the player. This ensures players are not frustrated by being faced with too many new things to learn at once, or with challenges that they don't yet have the mechanics to overcome. Super Amazing Wagon Adventure ditches this approach. In fact, in many regards it's specifically anti-structural. Short bursts of procedural gameplay mean that you can never settle into a comfort zone. You're under constant pressure, you have no idea what's coming next, meaning you have no idea how you're going to respond, or even if you can respond to the various random events that are taking place in the world around you. In short, this pacing creates pressures and considerations that are very similar to Oregon Trail, but rooted more in action-based gameplay than role-playing. Super Amazing Wagon Adventure could have easily been a cheap piece of throwaway tat which pimped the style of a classic game and just added a dash of lol random to try and make a quick buck. However, underneath the insanity of the presentation and chaotic game order, there is a very careful and deliberate guiding hand that ties the experience together just enough to make the chaos charming, as opposed to a mess of design. While events vary, you always get a warm-up event in which you shoot defenseless animals as your first mission. New players are given a few seconds to get acquainted with the controls, and unless you've never played a side-scrolling action game before, a few seconds is all you need. After that, the trick to keeping the player engaged is the fact that all the skills are transferable. The skills you pick up fording through rivers and avoiding boulders are transferable to bullet hell bosses, for example. The skills you pick up trying to collect animal hides as you move make you more aware of the screen and how fast you can actually move through the game's normal pace. You're not going to complete the game on your first try, but each attempt gives you skills that will still be useful even if you get a totally different set of events on your next attempt. The previously mentioned fixed events provide you with a clear sense of progress, which is so important in a game based on a journey. The sense of progression is something that I often find quite lacking in other procedurally generated games. My point is that for all the random, cocaine-fueled pacing in the game's presentation and style, it's pretty clear that some real thought and effort went into this design, and it really shows. Movement and shooting is very tight, harder than anything you'd expect in a modern game, but by still no means unfair. There's a kick-ass soundtrack that really fits the pacing and tone of the game. There's a CRT mode for those of you who really want an old-school experience. And the entire core of the game is just very well constructed and very well laid out. The only real complaint that I have is that On a large monitor like my 27-inch Asus, the pixelated text style can be nigh on impossible to read at times. Given that the game skips text after it's been displayed for a very short amount of time, this is something of a problem. That said, you can get used to it. It's just an affectation I feel makes the game a little weaker and more irritating than it does charming. But then again, smooth text would have probably just looked completely wrong. At the end of the day, there's not much more else I can say about Super Amazing Wagon Adventure. It's a chaotic little slice of narrative and mechanical insanity guided by a very deliberate and careful design. The end result is that the game is a huge amount of fun to play if you enjoy these sorts of simple side-scrollers, or if you want to see Oregon Trail cast in a whole new light. If both of these reasons sound good, then pick it up now. All in all, I'd say you can probably gauge from the gameplay footage alone if this is worth your time, but I certainly give it a thumbs up. For now, I'm Evis T, signing off.